Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. So today I got 5 novels, science fiction novels. One's a little more like dark fantasy, but I'll lump it into the science fiction category because I don't read a whole lot of fantasy. So yeah, five novels, 5 stories that I want to go over today. Some were pretty good, some weren't great, but we'll go over all that. We'll get into all that. I did take a little bit of a break from reading horror, which is my general, it's what I read the most. So, like I said, 5 stories that I went down the science fiction fantasy road, but I am ready to get back into horror. I've already started getting back into horror, and yeah, I've got some good stuff coming up in that regard. Before I get into the books, I just wanted to, give a little channel update. I did just get my basement finished, and I set up my movie collection, movie posters, some figures, everything like that. I call it my little nerd cave portion of the basement. So I do want to do a video showing that off and maybe add or transition or add the movie element side a little bit of my collecting into this channel. So yeah, just really for all of you here that are here for the books, that won't stop. Just know that I will always be reading. I'll always be reviewing books. There may just be some videos intermixed in with some movie reviews and some movie collection videos, and maybe just showing off some of my movie paraphernalia. Yeah, so that's that, and let's get into the science fiction books. All right, so first up is Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. So the basis of this book was basically there are people on Mars, I think. Well, this guy was a human, but he was born and bred on Mars by Martians. So I believe the Martians were a separate species. But we didn't really get into a whole lot of the Martians in this book. It more centralized on humans bringing back this other human that was, like I said, born and bred on Mars by Martians. So although he was biologically human, mentally he was able to operate at a much higher capacity. So I took it as I think he could just use more of his brain, so he could get into telekinesis, even like reading people's minds, things like that. So he was almost superhuman in the way we would look at him. So super interesting start to the book. I was really intrigued by that premise, and the start of the book was pretty cool, with him getting broken out from under the government's thumb by a couple individuals. And I thought it was gonna be a different novel than it ended up being. It really took a turn and went down a more religious side of it. And he took on more of a Jesus type role, where he started his own religion and people were following him, but he was training people to be like him, to use more of his mind, more of their minds, and everything like that. So yeah, it really did. It was heavily religion centered, which was a little tough for me to get through. I thought the middle of the book on to the end was a little bit of a tough read for me. So overall, I don't usually do stars, but if I'm doing a star, I would level this right in the middle, 2.5 stars out of 5. Premise was pretty good, like I said, but overall, this one, I just didn't find it the most entertaining novel. All right, next up are 2 Orwell classics, Animal Farm and 1984, which are both in this one edition here. First of all, I read both of these back in high school, but I barely remember reading anything back in high school, so it was like reading these fresh. I did like Animal Farm better than 1984. We'll start with Animal Farm. Really short, it's about 85 pages or so, and it's basically an allegorical tale about animals taking over the farm from humans. And I mean, just tons of political undertones, obviously, in these books. They're so, they're, I mean, they're classics, right? They teach them in school for a reason. I thought Animal Farm was pretty cool. Really, really makes you think about capitalism and the world we live in and everything like that. So, I mean, if you're into that kind of stuff, that's definitely worth a check out. As for 1984, I went into it thinking I was going to like it a lot better than I ended up liking it. I thought it was just kind of dry to read, and there just wasn't a whole lot going on. We all know the premise: Big Brother is watching, everything like that. Maybe I found it, I don't know, maybe it was a little uncomfortable for me to read it based on the world we're living in today. There was a lot of concerning similarities to, the way I feel actually, like where our society is headed with the whole thought police and everything like that, and and the conditioning and I don't want to get into it too deep, but the best way to sum it up is that I found it a little bit concerning, and maybe it was a little uncomfortable for me to read, and maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it as much as I did. But I mean, they're classics. I truly believe that they are both novels that people should read, just because of the similarities and the allegory to government and politics and everything like that. So overall, they were pretty good. All right, next up is The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, or Gaiman. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce his name. So this one falls more under the dark fantasy genre as opposed to science fiction. But I mean, it's still science fiction. This story is really good. Kind of read like a poem, maybe. That's the best way to sum it up. But it was beautiful. It was beautifully written. So it basically centers around a gentleman who is going back home, and it's one of those things where he's kind of forgotten everything that's happened to him when he was a kid, and he goes back home and it starts like jarring his memory, and everything starts like coming back to him. And basically the story takes us down memory lane for him, and this sequence of a couple days when he was about 9 or 10 years old, where he was dealing with some sort of otherworldly entity that was summoned by, I don't want to say, the best way to sum them up would be witches. They were like 3 generations of witches. Maybe that's the best comparison. That were dealing with these otherworldly, this other realm of beings that they were keeping them at bay and keeping our world safe from them. So basically, one of the more sinister beings gets released, or gets released into our world, and and she's terrorizing him and his family, and he has to seek shelter at these witches' house and help them then put this entity back to the realm which she came from. So as you could tell, it was interesting. It was kind of out there, but I mean, I'm into that kind of stuff. So it surely was an interesting read. It wasn't too long of a read. You can get through it pretty quick, but yeah, I thought it was beautifully written. Well, like I said, and definitely recommend this one. All right, and lastly, we had New York 2140 by Kim Stanley Robinson. This one I bought it because I was just book shopping one day, and I literally bought it because of the cover. I thought it just looked really cool. The submerged New York City skyline in the distant future. And this one, on paper, like the premise is great. Like it's kind of like Waterworld, but in a city. There was some pretty cool stuff to it. It was very dense. Like it at times it felt like you were reading a textbook. A way to sum this one up is it was basically like a warning for global warming or culture change, saying that the cause of global warming ended up melting the ice caps and raising all the sea levels. which put them into this dystopian world now where the sea levels are so high that all they can live on is the tops of skyscrapers. Structurally, I don't know how that would work exactly with the base of the skyscrapers being so deep underwater. They did touch upon that a little bit in the book, like kind of how they reinforce them and everything like that, but realistically, I'm not sure that would actually work. But for the sake of the novel, I went with it. And like I said, it was, you know, you followed a lot of different points of views of different characters, and there were certain points of views that were better reads than others. Like there was a couple of young kids who were always kind of boating around and getting into trouble, which I enjoyed those storylines a lot more than some of the other ones. Some of the other ones were very, again, political, economical, talking tons about economics and investing money in stocks and the stock market and things like that. So, I mean, if that's an interest of yours, maybe this one is one to check out. If you mix that in with the whole sci-fi part of it, if you're into both of those types of things, this might be up your alley. So really, at the end of the day, it was a pretty good read. It's kind of long. And like I said, there are points where it can be a little dry, but overall, the premise was pretty cool. And there were a lot of elements to it that were super interesting. All right, everyone, once again, thanks for checking out the video. If you like this kind of content, if you love reading, shoot me a like, shoot me a subscribe if you want to. You don't have to, obviously. But yeah, once again, thanks for tuning in. And we'll bring some more videos to you shortly with some more horror reads because I'm going on a big-time horror run. Take care.